Reading the Times for Sunday, January 12th, 2020. Reading the Times for Sunday, January 12th, 2020. Furor in Iran and abroad after Tehran admits downing Ukrainian jetliner. Within Iran, as citizens vented anger toward the government, officials offered a mix of contrition and an insistence that Iran was not solely to blame. The criticism of Iran over the crash threatens to eclipse whatever international sympathy Iran had garnered in its escalating confrontation with the Trump administration, which has faced widespread criticism over stoking a violent confrontation with Iran's leaders. In Washington, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, an outspoken Iran critic, who was among the first American officials to accuse the country of shooting down the Ukrainian jetliner, posted a message on Twitter that clearly alluded to the outrage in Iran on Saturday. At 16, she's a pioneer in the fight to cure sickle cell disease. Because the misshapen red blood cells live just a fifth as long as normal ones, Helen developed gallstones from the byproducts of recycling huge numbers of dying cells. Re-educating blood cells, the trial, run by Dr. David A. Williams, an expert in the biology of blood-forming stem cells at Boston's Children's, and Dr. Estrick, a straightforward goal. We're going to re-educate the blood cells and make them think they are still in the fetus, Dr. Williams said. Doctors gave patients a drug that loosens stem cell immature cells that can turn into red blood cells from bone marrow, their normal home, so they floated free in the bloodstream. Sanders and Biden look for dominance in early states. Mr. Sanders has used his powerful financial position to mount the largest advertising campaign of any candidate in the state, and he has been emphasizing his long anti-war record while delivering increasingly pointed criticism of Mr. Biden's past support for foreign trade deals and the 2003 invasion of Iraq. The same could be true of Mr. Sanders. His campaign believes he is well positioned to win 3 out of the first 4 states, with the Biden stronghold of South Carolina as the one holdout, and then cement his control of the race on Super Tuesday, when Mr. Sanders' financial strength and popularity with Latino voters could give him an edge in states like California and Texas. Ms. Shalala, who has not endorsed a candidate, suggested the nomination might be resolved in a brokered convention and predicted Mr. Sanders would stay in the primary right down till the end. For all his team's optimism, Mr. Biden has yet to gain ground in Iowa and is no better than tied for the lead in New Hampshire, and his campaign could be stretched thin in bigger primary states where he has done less than his top rivals to build out operations. Defying the rabbis, Tel Aviv rolls out Sabbath bus service. Israelis have been riding for free on Friday nights and Saturdays since a new Sabbath-only transit network was rushed into service in November by Tel Aviv and 3 neighboring municipalities. For an otherwise modern metropolis known for its startups and billion-dollar exits, its beaches and bustling nightlife, Tel Aviv has long been literally slowed down by the statutory shutdown of public transportation from before sundown on Friday until after sundown on Saturday. Mr. Persico worried that Tel Aviv's gambit would set off a secular arms race with cities that cater to affluent, non-religious Israelis, accelerating the sorting of the country's population by providing services like Sabbath buses that poorer and more religious areas would not have. Macron scraps proposal to raise retirement age in France. With tens of thousands of anti-government demonstrators once again coursing through the streets of Paris and other cities, and clouds of tear gas and smashed store windows punctuating the urban landscape. The French government made a major concession on Saturday to unions protesting its pension reform plan. On Saturday, with a crippling transport strike already in its 6th week, Mr. Macron's government backed down, announcing that it would withdraw the new age limit and put off decisions on financing the system until it gets a report on the money problem between now and the end of April. But the government did not entirely rule out the idea of reintroducing a new retirement age if funding solutions to the pensions deficit are not reached. The moderate French Democratic Confederation of Labor, or CFDT, which has long been calling for the withdrawal of the new retirement age, welcomed the government's move on Saturday, which it said had shown the government's willingness to compromise. The far-right leader, Marine Le Pen, called the government's move a dishonest negotiating tactic. Happy birthday, Trump tells Kim. Not enough, North Korea says. Ever since his first summit meeting with Mr. Kim in June 2018, Mr. Trump has repeatedly flaunted his good relationship with the North's leader, calling Mr. Kim smart, and even going so far as to say he and Mr. Kim fell in love. The two leaders have also exchanged personal letters and dispatched special envoys to each other's capitals. But talks on how to denuclearize the North remains deadlocked. On Saturday, Kim Kye-gwan, a senior aide to Mr. Kim, confirmed that Mr. Trump had sent a personal letter to Mr. Kim for his birthday. Kim Kye-gwan said the letter from Mr. Trump had already been delivered to Pyongyang directly from the Americans, calling South Korea presumptuous for seeking to act as an intermediary between Mr. Kim and Mr. Trump. In blow to Beijing, Taiwan re-elects Tsai Ing-wen as president. Willie Yu, 23, who cast his ballot at the Taipei Municipal Xinhua Junior High School, said he had come out to vote because I hope Taiwan can preserve its democracy and freedom. Ms. Tsai's main opponent, Han Kyo-yu, a populist mayor, conceded defeat on Saturday evening, saying he had called Ms. Tsai to congratulate her on her re-election. Taiwan must be Taiwan, Hiro Huang, a 30-year-old filmmaker, said this past week at a rally for Ms. Tsai and her party, the Democratic Progress Party. In China, a spokesperson for the department overseeing Taiwan affairs, Ma Xiaoguang, issued a statement that avoided even mentioning Ms. Tsai's name, but warned that Beijing resolutely opposed any form of separatist conspiracy in Taiwan, the Xinhua news agency reported late Saturday. 2 U.S. service members killed in Afghanistan. 2 American service members were killed and 2 others were wounded in a roadside bomb explosion in southern Afghanistan on Saturday, the United States military commander in Afghanistan said in a statement. 20 American service members were killed in Afghanistan last year. The attack on American service members comes as the leaders of the Taliban are considering whether to comply with American demand that they reduce violence in the country as a condition for reaching a preliminary peace agreement. Oman's new sultan vows to continue country's peacemaking path. The new leader, Haytham bin Tariq Al Said, succeeded Sultan Qaboos, a towering figure who ruled Oman for nearly 50 years. Sultan Haytham has helped lead efforts to diversify Oman's economy, though with limited success. Sultan Qaboos created a modern economy from scratch. Sultan Haytham will now need to reform that economy in order to right the ship, said Alana de Lozier, a research fellow at the Washington Institute for Near East Policy. Harry, Meghan, and Britain. Where did the fairy tale go sour? Prince Harry, who had started legal proceedings against the owners of 2 British tabloids over accusations that they had hacked his phone, said in a statement that Meghan had become a victim of a ruthless campaign by British tabloids and that he had been a silent witness to private suffering for too long. There's a human cost to this relentless propaganda, specifically when it is knowingly false and malicious. Prince Harry said. And though we have continued to put on a brave face, as so many of you can relate, I cannot begin to describe how painful it has been. On June 20th, it was announced that the Duke and Duchess of Sussex would split from the Royal Foundation, established by Prince William and Harry in 2009, and create their own. In the Queen's annual Christmas message, the faces of Prince Harry, Meghan, and Archie were nowhere to be seen amid the other photos on the desk where she sat. Could Megxit be a royal fairy tale for Canada? For 7 years during her previous career as an actress, she lived in Toronto while filming the popular legal drama Suits. The Canadian media's relative lack of intrusiveness could also offer a welcome reprieve from the voracious British tabloid press, which has dubbed the entire endeavor Megxit. Perhaps mindful of the couple's potential to burnish Canada's brand, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau, himself a member of political royalty as the son of a former prime minister, welcomed them on Twitter in December around their vacation period. You're among friends and always welcome here. Philippe Lagacé, an expert on the British monarchy at Carleton University in Ottawa, suggested that their sometimes self-deprecating country was greeting a potential royal migration as a vindication of the Canadian way of life. Such is the enthusiasm for the couple in Canada that a poll released this week showed that 60% of Canadians support appointing Prince Harry as Governor General, the Crown's representative in Canada's system of constitutional monarchy. Even though Prince Harry's grandmother is a personification of the Canadian state, he said, that does not confer legal rights for her progeny in Canada. Guinness records and pom-poms. An Ohio town battles opioid image. My kids all have master's degrees. My daughter-in-law has a doctorate. We have a lot of intelligent, successful people here, and it makes me mad that we are never, ever seen that way. Mr. Burnside has joined a small group of younger residents, business owners, college professors, Iraq war veterans, and museum curators, who people say have brought new energy to solving Portsmouth's problems. Aren't people curious about how the story ends? But the story is far from over. Half the people in this coffee shop would say, "Why are we spending so much time on these people?" he said, looking around a busy cafe, Lofts Coffee Company. Trump administration says Obamacare lawsuit can wait until after the election. The case, which seeks to invalidate the entire health care law, can wait for the lower courts to consider certain questions more carefully, they said in a filing to the Supreme Court on Friday. A group of Democratic-led states and House of Representatives, which entered the case to defend the law, have asked